we are asking ourselves, what are going to be, or what are the effects of US tariff rate hikes, right? Now, the chart before us is from the budget lab at Yale, and it's as presented by economist Paul Krugman. So, what does the chart actually show? Well, the chart illustrates the average US, the American tariff rate, all the way from the year 1927 to 2022. And what we can see is that the last time that the average US tariff rate was at such a high level, right? Beyond or about 20% or above, was just around 1932, right? So what does it mean? Why is it even important? The premise is this. 1932, the American government decided to raise tariff rates. Tariffs are just another form of taxation. They decided that goods coming into the United States, right, were going to have imposed on them a tariff such that the government will collect some level of revenue and those goods will effectively be more expensive. They thought that this was a move that would be beneficial to their economy. So the US tariff rate reached heights of 20% in the year 1933 and then gradually fell and continued to fall to below 4% by the year 2012. In the year 2022, US tariffs have shot up to just above 22.5%, right? The highest they've been in just almost 90 years. Now, before this April 2nd announcement, the April 2nd announcement being the announcement behind called Liberation Day by the Trump administration, 2025 tariff hikes caused a 2.3% rise in price levels. So what does this mean? In the United States itself, the average price level, the average prices of products that the average household was consuming rose by 2.3%. What did this do? It took out $3,800 from the income of the average American household, right? So Kenya's per capita income annually is just about $2,000. So a 2.3% rise in tariff rates wiped out more than what the average Kenyan earns in a year. Households at the bottom of the income distribution are estimated to have lost $1,700. Now that just gives you an idea of how crushing tariffs can be. Now consider this. In the present day, when global GDP is just about $83 trillion, global trade is worth just about 30 trillion. So if you divide that by 7 billion people, it's just about the value of trade in general, right? Give or take, just about $3,000. So that's in terms of, if we posit how much global trade is contributing to the welfare of producers and consumers around the world, just taking the value of global trade and distributing it to all 7-something billion people around the world. And the US tariffs, before the April 2nd announcement, wiped out that much from the average American household. Now, the average American household earns more than $65,000 a year. After the April 2nd announcement, price levels would rise again by 1.3% in the short run. This was again equivalent to a loss of consumer wealth of $2,100. It was estimated that under the April 2nd regime, households at the bottom of the income distribution would lose $980. So under this regime, the US economy could itself contract by $180 billion every year. Consider again that Kenya's GDP is $100 billion. So the tariffs that have been introduced by the Trump administration could wipe out the equivalent of almost twice Kenya's annual GDP every single year, right? Like one day Kenya exists as it is, the next year, everything, all the economic activities we are familiar with are no longer existed, almost as if a nuclear bomb, right? Or a disease or a rapture, something wiped out all economic activity in Kenya in 1 year, and then the next year, even that zero that was there was taken away. This contraction would represent a slowdown in US real GDP growth of negative 0.9%. Now that gives you a bit of a sense of just how large the American economy is. At more than 27 billion, its annual GDP is many times, $27 trillion, many times greater than a country like Kenya. All things equal, the April 2nd tariffs alone could raise 1.4 trillion in revenues between the years 2026 and 2035. Because the tariffs would induce a negative effect on output growth, losses in revenue could amount to 366 billion over the next 10 years. So the Kenyan government raises just about $30 billion a year. These tariffs will raise, for the United States, just these tariffs alone will raise an additional 1.4 trillion in revenues between 2026 and 2035. But because they're going to have a negative effect on output growth, losses to revenue will be about 366 billion. So now the White House or those who are in favor of these tariffs might look at that number and say, look, it's still net positive. But we have to remember, someone is going to get hurt, right? There's some inefficiencies, some efficiencies that are going to disappear, some economic activities that are going to disappear. Now, over 10 years, the tariffs would raise about 3.1 trillion in revenues and lose about 582 billion dollars due to losses in output. So all this is just something to help us start to think about what it is that tariffs do, what effect they actually have on economic activity, on the day-to-day lives of average everyday people, and to begin to ask why, to question when they are implemented, and to imagine what the consequences would be. Thank you.